can still have success. Like I said, if the Saints win those battles by firing straight out, because that'll get Alvin to the second level very quickly. Where maybe he will be able to make one cut. You're not going to see multiple cuts from anybody today, but maybe he will be able to make one cut and turn maybe an 8-yard gain into a 20 or 25-yard gain. Those are going to be keys to the game. So obviously, but conversely, the Saints defensive line is going to have to prevent themselves from being put on skates, something that we have seen far too often this year, in perfect field conditions. So as I said, and the style wise, Cleveland wants to run the ball first, second, and third options. So it plays right into the Browns style of play. The Saints are going to have to alter their game plan. Hopefully they did so. If offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael and that staff has even an ounce of brain cells, they have adjusted their game plan accordingly, because it's not like this weather it comes as a surprise to anybody. It's been forecast exactly this way for about a week, if not more.
Absolutely. I think all of us with the Saints News Network, when we were making our previews for this week, whether it be players to watch, X factors, first look, the wonderful work you do in previewing the run and the pass game for both sides against those defenses, we've all talked about the fact that it's gonna snow. It's that meme from Family Guy where he goes, "It gonna rain." We knew it was gonna snow. We knew it was gonna be windy. We knew all of that coming into today. So I think, and I had previewed it in my X factors, I think Taysom Hill is going to be a big X factor in this game. I mean, I love my ridiculous stat of the year of when Taysom Hill runs the ball more than 9 times or gets more than 9 carries. The Saints are undefeated this year. It's only 3-0, but nonetheless, I definitely see this being a game where Taysom Hill gets plenty of work. I think it's going to be a full full carousel of running backs today for New Orleans. You're going to see David Johnson get touches, whether you like it or not. You're going to see Taysom Hill get touches. You're going to see Alvin Kamara. Almost unfortunately for the Saints, Andy Dalton's not much of a rusher, so you're not going to be able to run a whole lot of RPOs, or you're not going to be able to run a whole lot of options. I mean, you do have Taysom Hill there if you want to start running some of that stuff. And honestly, Bob, this might be a game, and I know the Saints offense isn't going to change just because of the weather for this one instance, but this might be a game where it would be better if Taysom Hill was your starting quarterback, because if he was able to take every snap, it definitely fits the mold of Taysom Hill better in this game. You talked about footing, you talked about defensively, especially on the edges, just looking out for those guys. What are you looking for in the receiving corps for both teams and the secondary for both sides in a game where there may only be 10 pass attempts for each side just because of those ridiculous wind gusts and the weather?
I would love to see the Saints run some wide receiver screens, and just some quick plays. Not necessarily slants though, because on a slant you have to deliver that football with pretty good velocity. And like I said, that's asking for drop passes. But wide receiver screens, anything quick. To get the ball into the receiver's hands quickly. Defensively, the receiver actually has the advantage on a poor footing field. The reason that is because the wide receiver knows where they're going, whereas the defensive back has to adjust and react. So it's a whole lot easier for a receiver to kind of chop steps. Granted, you're telegraphing the cut you're about to make. But again, the defender, when they have to react on a field with poor footing, they're more often than not going to slip, or at the very least be delayed in their reaction. So if you see some soft zones from either one of these teams, and I think that we will, for the reasons that I just mentioned, then you will be able to get the ball the ball out of your hands relatively quickly. Just like John Butler just pointed out in the comments, and I have said this a number of times this week, remember that Andy Dalton is used to playing in these conditions, certainly more so than Deshaun Watson is. Maybe not these kind of conditions, but cold, wind, freezing temperatures, etc. That's important to note, because that means that Andy Dalton knows knows what kind of throws are going to work, in what kind of, given situations, and what kind of pass routes. So when the Saints do throw the ball, when either team throws the ball, those are the kind of things to look for. But again, the passing game is only going to be an extension of the run game. A lot of short stuffs, screens, things like that. And even though the defense is going to expect these screens to come, they might still work on field conditions like I expect today, because, again, it's an extension of the run game. You're just moving your offensive line rather than firing straight forward. So, again, I say, for the second time, if the Saints offensive coaches have even an ounce of working brain cells between them, they have designed their passing game as such.
Yeah, I expect to see a lot in the flats, whether it's Kamara, whether it's David Johnson, whether it's the very rare tight end screen, some receiver screens. The one thing is you got to keep it close on those screens, right? You don't want to be throwing the ball 15 yards toward 20 yards towards the sideline because especially if it's going behind the line of scrimmage and it's not a pass, that could end up in disaster itself as well. Looking at this one, Bob, you don't call it a must-win for the Saints because it's not technically a must-win, as you broke down on Wednesday. The second and more complicated will be making the playoffs. But it's certainly that time of year where, with 3 games left, the easiest situation is the Saints win all 3. And next week's going to be difficult, but we'll talk about that next week. And then Tampa Bay has to lose too. Matchup like this, like I said, against a team that likes to run the football. How do you disrupt the Cleveland offense that we talked about on Wednesday is already dealing with some chemistry issues with Deshaun Watson only playing a handful of games for him?
There is a chemistry issue with Deshaun Watson and those receivers. So in a way, the bad weather almost works in favor of the Cleveland Browns because of that, because it is going to, somewhat largely nullify the passing attack on both sides. As we said at the onset of the show, Cleveland's game plan is simply this: they want to run the ball down your throats. They want to be physical with you. So for New Orleans to beat that, something that they've struggled to do all year long, the defensive tackles especially have to get off of the snap first. The movement advantage on a slick field is so vital. Because it would get whoever has the movement advantage, your opponent is now suddenly on their heels. That's an important leverage advantage under normal circumstances, but in a slick field, on an icy field, on a sloppy field, it's really the difference between you winning and losing a play. So look for some not false starts. Look for some offsides penalties on both sides because of that today, because these defenders are trying to jump that snap count, and things like that. So as far as the chemistry issue, Deshaun Watson, he's still learning the playbook. I'm sure he knows it, but it's a different thing between memorizing something and then putting it to use on the front lines of a football field in this case. So, Andy Dalton, obviously much more familiar, with the New Orleans offense in game situations. So that's where cadence, could possibly, benefit your side, with a couple of key penalties in crucial moments. But outside of that, it's really a man-on-man game in these type of situations. It's one-on-one battles that are going to decide this. The coaches can think that they're going to be as cute as they want, but since the weather conditions are going to adversely affect a lot of what you do, defensively as well as offensively, it's just a matter of winning these one-on-one battles, and that's no more so the case than the Saints' run defense, that front seven, and especially that defensive line getting quick penetration into the Cleveland backfield to shut down Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
For New Orleans in this game, we keep talking about weather conditions, and it's going to be a vital part of it, Bob. But the Saints are tied for last in the NFL in turnover differential. They're at -12. They're tied with the Indianapolis Colts for worst in the league. In a game like this, where one extra possession could make all the difference, do you see the Saints being able to come up with a big play, and how does the Saints disguise things defensively when we know, sitting here, you in Pittsburgh, me in Atlanta, we know that Cleveland's going to run the ball. Cleveland knows they're going to run the ball. New Orleans knows Cleveland's going to run the ball, and Cleveland knows that New Orleans knows that Cleveland's going to run football. How do you disguise things defensively to try to steal a possession?
There's not going to be much disguising of anything on either side today, Brendan. You're going to design things, that might throw off the opposition a little bit, but for the most part, again, this is just going to be a one-on-one battle and one-on-one battles across the board. What it is a matter of is how are you going to disguise your coverage? Where are you going to bring your linebackers? That's really the only option that either defensive coordinator has on a day like today. Where are you going to bring your linebackers? And then offensively, you counter that with, I see them grouped a little bit more with extra defenders on the outside. Obviously, at that moment, you're going to run inside, quick hitters, because you don't want anything slow developing on a day like today. Maybe offensively, you take your offensive line and you try to bunch, the Cleveland defenders inside. So you might be able to get an off tackle play, but it's not going to be a slash. Not if the field conditions are slick whatsoever. It's going to be a pitch, which will be a little bit more slow developing. And at that point, your tackles have to do a good job of blocking down and sealing that edge so you don't get nailed for loss after loss. But again, you can't get too cute in weather conditions like this, field conditions like this, because it's just going to end in disaster.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll see a lot of Trevor Penning today, the extra blocker, a lot of jumbo sets for New Orleans. How creative can you get the jumbo set? As well, you and I have talked about so much about they got to find different ways to get the ball in playmakers' hands, whether that's Rashid Shaheed, whether it's Alvin Kamara. We've seen jet sweeps. You can't really do that in a jumbo set. How risky do you want to be in running something extracurricular, for lack of a better term, in some of those jumbo sets when it's in the single digits? I mean, there's a lot of things. It's going to be a nasty, grinded out, old style type of football. I mean, if you're an offensive person, you're going to hate this game. If you are a fan of just old school, fundamental, tactical football, and that's the other thing, Bob. This comes down to coaching more than anything. It's who's going to make the one tactical switch that's going to make the difference. Saints fans are probably biting their fingernails when they hear that because of how the coaching has been perceived so far this season. Bob, for you, who are the X factors in this game for New Orleans, one offensively and one defensively?
Offensively, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Obviously, Taysom and Kamara both have to have good games, but I'm gonna go along say that the entire offensive line is going to be the X factor. If you're making me choose one player out of that, I'm going to say Eric McCoy, because interior battles are going to be crucial. And we saw the Saints. They look like a different blocking team with McCoy back in the lineup last week against Atlanta. But his job becomes even more crucial because we know Cesar Ruiz is out. We're waiting for the inactive report, but it's very distinct possibility that Andrus Peat won't play again today, because of he's been sick all week. So McCoy is literally going to be the anchor for that offensive line. We mentioned that the key to the game would be winning your battles, straight ahead battles, and just get those Browns defenders on skates. So that's going to be on McCoy. Especially if he has two new guards around him. We know Calvin Throckmorton is going to be one, but what if Pete misses also? What do you do? Do you put Josh Andrews in there at guard? Or do you do what I would do, and that is move James Hurst on the inside and give the rookie Trevor Penning his first start at left tackle? So you do have a couple options up front here, but that's my X factor to see, how do the Saints coach it? What lineup combinations they use up front, and B, if those guys can win their battles in the trenches. That's offensive key. Defensive key. I'm going to name my X factor as Demario Davis. Demario played his early NFL career in cold weather cities with the New York Jets and 1 year with the Cleveland Browns. So again, you can't get used to weather of this magnitude, but you're a little bit more used to colder weather than maybe what some of your teammates are. It's really key that the Saints win those interior battles and all along the offensive and defensive lines in the trenches. But Demario has to recognize, and with his wonderful play recognition ability, I do have confidence. Where are they going to run Nick Chubb? Because again, just like with Alvin Kamara, you're not going to see a whole lot of cutting with Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt. At one cut, and then you got to get downhill fast. And immediately. So Demario has to respond to that. We know that he's capable of it. Whether he does or not will probably mean the difference. You're going to see some real interesting and bone-jarring collisions between Davis and Chubb today. If you're an old-school football fan, you're going to love it. But the winner of that one-on-one battle, and obviously the trenches, as we pointed out, that's who's going to win this game today.
Yeah, it looks like you read some of my article today. I had Demario Davis as well. I think that on top of what you said, I think the IQ is going to be a big part of this one. I talked about tactical decisions. I talked about how everybody knows what's going to happen. But how can Demario Davis set guys up and make adjustments to what you already know is coming to make sure you put your players in the very best position to make a play. And Demario's been so good with that throughout his NFL career, particularly his last few years in New Orleans. Again, shout out, he finally got his Pro Bowl, something that is so long deserved. And the fact that you can make an All-Pro team without making a Pro Bowl is a whole different story. Bob, let's close down the show and get to it with some predictions, where people can follow us. And I got a little bit of news on a giveaway. But first and foremost, score predictions for today.
Listen, the New Orleans Saints are capable of winning this game, even in these conditions. I have no doubt about that. But the tackling issue for this defense has concerned me all year long. The strategic issue on the offensive side has concerned me all year long. And those could rear their ugly heads again. The winner of this game is going to be the winner of the battle of attrition. It's going to be as simple as that. A high character, old school, buckle up your chin strap kind of game. The Saints have the personnel to do it, but we haven't seen a lot of character from this group as a whole all year long. And I'm afraid that Mother Nature, along with the Cleveland Browns, are going to put a kill shot on the Saints season. I believe the Saints are very capable of winning this game, but I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns by a 13-10 score.
Ooh. This is the Browns team that, like you said, they like to run the football, and they have multiple backs very capable of it. Kareem Hunt is a guy we haven't really talked about today. We talked about it a little bit on Wednesday, but I still think Kareem Hunt is a capable starting running back in the NFL. But he's playing sidekick to one of the best running backs in football, Nick Chubb. So when you got that kind of two-headed monster in the backfield, and both those guys are not just speed guys, they will hit you hard between the tackles. I definitely think Cleveland has the upper hand, and especially with a New Orleans team where you're without Mark Ingram, who's your best between the tackles guy. You got a lot of question marks behind Alvin Kamara, and there hasn't been any consistency to what we've seen at Taysom Hill. I think the defense will hold up and do their job. Frankly, I know the defense has had a disappointing year, but you look at some of the box scores and you go back and watch some film and you realize the defense really kept this team a lot of games this year. The offense just was incapable of scoring points. I think that's going to happen yet again today. The Cleveland Browns I'll take by the score of 17-3. I don't think the Saints get in the end zone today. I know that's a bold one. That's a bold one. Not very jolly and merry, but before we tell you guys to follow you, I will give you guys something jolly and merry to be about. So I don't have a Santa hat laying around, but we'll call me Santa today. Here's our giveaways. I was thinking all week, Bob, about, we have so many people that follow us just strictly on YouTube and don't have social media, and I didn't want them to miss out. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a social media giveaway, and we're going to have a YouTube giveaway, and we'll give the details next week on Wednesday for the Bayou Blitz podcast. We'll give all the details, and we're going to make it a nice little surprise. We'll try it. Don't think we're going to have any Bayou Blitz gear. Still working on getting some of that stuff. We will have that in the future. This will be a nice little giveaway. And just a little hint, you see all that stuff behind Bob, it's going to be something you could probably put on a mantle back there, or with your Houdat collection at home. Well, Bob, where can everybody follow you on the World Wide Web as we close out this Christmas Eve edition of the pregame show?
Folks, you can follow me over on Facebook, Bob Rose, ROSE. I'm at Twitter, on Twitter, at Bobby R2613. All of our works, Brendan's, myself, John Hendricks, Kyle Mosley, we can be followed through the Saints News Network, at Saints News on Twitter. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're probably aware that we have a Bayou Blitz Facebook page and a Bayou Blitz Twitter page at Bayou Blitz Pod. If you're already following, thank you for all of your support. Thank to every single one of you for your support of Brendan and I while doing our shows, both on game day and our Wednesday night Bayou Blitz podcast. Nothing but love for you. If you know people that aren't following us, either individually or our Bayou Blitz, avenues, please steer them our direction. Make this show continue to grow. We're going to go strong into 2023, and we're going strong because of the push that you guys give us, the support that you guys give us. And with that, I would love to say again, Merry Christmas and happy every holiday you celebrate to every single one of you, every single one of your families, and a special Merry Christmas to my good friend. Thank you, Brendan Boylan, for always being there for me and with me.
Hey, thank you. Merry Christmas to you and Lauren and the kids. I know you guys are going to have an awesome day tonight and tomorrow. For myself, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BT Boylan. All my work with the Saints News Network and fantasy football stuff. Hopefully your playoffs are going okay. I had a bye week last week, so I know mine was fine. Bob did too, but for different reasons. But nonetheless, you can follow us all over at the Saints News Network. Also, Bob, you said you're at Twitter by accident. Are you throwing your name in the hat for CEO of Twitter?
Yeah, I am. I could run it better than Musk. I would change some rules, change the verification process. I might give myself a blue check, because a lot of people are telling me that I'm deserving of it. So I might be a little bit self-serving and give myself a blue check. But yeah, I can do it.
Hey, you get with Jim Everett again. You guys had the political campaign. You guys become the CEO and vice CEO of Twitter right there. Everett and Rose, 2023 for Twitter CEO. Oh, guys, we love that we can joke around with all of you guys. Very happy holidays to each and every one of you. We'll see you on the 28th for the Bayou Blitz podcast. We'll have some updates on those. We'll call them holiday and New Year giveaways for our fans, because it's going to be a little bit past Christmas before those things get out. But nonetheless, guys, hope you enjoy the Saints and the Browns kickoff in a little less than an hour. And for all of you that are somewhere in the path of this winter storm and it's very cold, Bob included, I hope you guys all stay safe, warm, and hopefully you guys will give us some updates throughout the week. If you get hit very hard, make sure you do that on our Bayou Blitz Facebook page. But until Wednesday, Bob, Merry Christmas. You go have fun with the little ones. You wish everybody out in the Rose household a Merry Christmas for me, all right?
And right back at you, Mr. Boylan. You and Katie have a wonderful Christmas. Safe travels. I know you're traveling. And Merry Christmas to all of your family as well.
We appreciate it, Bob. Merry Christmas to our Bayou Blitz family. We'll see you guys on Wednesday night. Thanks for tuning in.